Hey everyone, Gene here. Welcome back to the Evil Within. This is an Akumu, no upgrade, no locker, no flashbolt, no freeze bolt playthrough on the PS4, and we're on chapter 5. This is one of my favorite chapters in the game. There's a lot of cool stuff here. One of the best fights in the whole game takes place here. It also ends with Laura again, and that's a lot of fun, so we'll see that. This area starts with those invisible enemies that we saw one of in the last chapter, and I'm going to show you a few more ways to kind of go about tackling them. This first one in this hallway you have to kill. He appears right there at the end of the hallway, and you have to kill him. So if you go through that door at the far end on the left, it's not going to open if you don't kill him. So I use that puddle there to track his footsteps, and I just blast him with the shotgun. Again, usually the safest way to deal with these guys is the flashbolt, but since we're not using that, I'm going to use the shotgun as my primary way to get rid of these guys. Whenever you hit them, they appear for a brief second, so not only can you bait out their attacks, but if you happen to hit them with something, you'll get to see them for a second. Shotgun's the safest bet since it has such a large spread, and since even if you hit them at more of a mid-range and don't do much damage, it'll still expose them. So if you don't have flash bolts and there's not really much in the environment nearby, you can use the shotgun as a pretty safe way of dealing with them. Also, this chapter has a lot of me kind of scrounging around for resources and doing some backtracking because I forgot where stuff was, so I edited a lot of stuff out here. So I just wanted to get to the combat because that's mostly what these videos are for, is to show strategies and ways to do things, stuff like that. I want to talk about the combat primarily. I don't really have any other aspects of the game I really want to talk about. Another invisible enemy here. Not only is there water, there's also some stuff in the environment he gets to walk into. So you see right there, I shot him with the harpoon bolt, and now it's sticking out of him. So even if they go back to being invisible, the harpoon bolt still stays visible. So you can just kind of watch them that way. It takes the same amount of trap parts as a flash bolt, so it really doesn't take any more resources, but you don't get the free instant kill out of it since you can't sneak kill them after. And then there's one in this room, and I completely kind of lose track of him. See, like right here, I don't really know where he is. And again, since the shotgun has such a wide spread, I managed to nail him, even just barely, but it's enough for me to really tell where he is. If you saw right there, I shot him while he was doing his attack, so he stayed visible during the whole duration of his attack there, which normally he wouldn't. So that's useful too if you can get that to work. So you come in here and you grab this key item, and on the way back there's going to be another invisible guy who comes right out of these double doors around the corner. It's nice to plant an explosive bolt right. You kind of want to put it out a few feet in front of the door. That way the timer starts right as the door opens and he steps right on top of it. But I planted it too close to the door, so he stepped over it. So it didn't kill him, but it stunned him, it exposed him, so I just went right into a shotgun blast. And here I'm just editing out all the backtracking, puzzle stuff. Just kind of getting right to the point here, to the next fight. And here we meet up with Joseph again. So here, the big battles of the chapter are going to start. We have kind of a smaller one, and then the real star of this chapter is coming up.
Get out of here fast.
So Joseph's with you for 2 chapters, and in both chapters you have to watch his health because he does attack the enemies and he does sort of defend himself, but you also have to make sure he doesn't die, because if he dies, it's game over. So these enemies, they can all be lured into this oil patch, every single one of them. If you stay there for a second and let that first enemy get a head start, and then all the other ones will follow, you can just burn them all. So again, make sure that they don't go for that desperation attack. I was playing it a little risky by just standing there, but none of them hit me, so it worked out. Here I just edited through some stuff again. Joseph's gonna be a gentleman and open this door for me. So the big fight in this chapter that I've been talking about It sort of goes like how it did in the last chapter, where I had things planned out and they didn't really go how I wanted them to. This one isn't quite as bad, but there is one part at the end where I didn't really do what I wanted, and I ended up getting kind of lucky, so you're going to see how that works. But yeah, this chapter is great. It has really great atmosphere, some really good fights. It ends really cool. I love every part with Laura. Like, they're all great. The fact that you can kill her in chapter 10 is an awesome little touch.
Get out of here.
It's like having a big super boss in a game like this is pretty cool, I gotta say. I think a lot of people got to this chapter and this is where they were like, oh, this isn't a survival horror game, this is just an action game. This isn't a true survival horror game or whatever. But I think that we've kind of got to the point where we can mix action and survival horror. I mean, even the old Resident Evils, you mostly engage in combat a lot in those games. So traditionally, survival horror games have combat in them, and they're still a focus. So, but this game is still rooted in survival horror, even though it has parts like this. We have resource management, high difficulty. The enemies and the environment are just ruthless. It's kind of a side ramble, but I just wanted to throw that in there. Okay, so this is the start of the fight. Really awesome fight. There's several waves and several parts to this, and there's a lot of resources lying around the room. So in between waves, you can kind of go in and grab them. I try to do that, but I kind of just avoid it until the end of the fight. So here, these enemies are all aggroed to Joseph, and I like to start with an explosive bolt. And right here, it goes pretty well. I get 2 of them. When you kill 2 enemies in the back, the enemies are going to come out of that gate. So I like to plant another explosive bolt and get another kill and some more hits done. So that guy's an easy target. Pop his head off. And then here, I miraculously miss 3 shots in a row. So again, the enemies are designed to move very sporadically and awkwardly. So that kind of stuff is going to happen if you're going for handgun shots, especially to the leg, because they're animated so weirdly. You're not going to hit them terribly consistently. And as you can see, Joseph's really low on health, so I just burn what I can and get over to him so I can heal him. Because if he gets low on health, it's not a game over. You can heal him and kind of get your bearings back. So then he gets hit again. But luckily these enemies are lined up, and the shotgun, as you can see, it has good range. So it stunned that enemy long enough for me to shoot him in the leg with the handgun, which was really nice. And dynamite enemy are coming up. If you played Resident Evil 4, which I imagine if you're watching this video you have. So right there, you can shoot them in the arm and they'll drop it. And right there, he dropped it right at his feet and he blew himself up, which is super helpful. And up here, there's going to be 4 enemies, and one tends to run out really fast in front of the others. So I wanted to shoot him, give him some hit stun, just enough to let the other ones catch up to him, and I was going to shoot them all with the shotgun and then let the dynamite enemy take care of the rest. But that didn't happen, but I still managed to get 3 with 1 match, so it still worked out pretty well. But these guys with the dynamite are seriously accurate and throw it really far, so if they throw it, you better have some stamina because you're going to need to get away from it. So basically, I would recommend if you see them, avoid using your stamina until they throw it, because you're going to need to get away from it. And there I wasted that shock bolt, which you can retrieve. If you lay down a shock bolt and it doesn't catch any enemy, you can go grab it. It's not like the harpoon bolt where it's lost. So make sure to grab it if you miss. I don't do it here because I didn't know how much time I had till the next wave. Here I pick up the axe because there's going to be a wave of enemies who have masks, and one of them is going to be a fatty. So the fatty he's charging me, so I think, well, I'm going to need to hit him and stop him, and that's what I did right there. It doesn't kill the fatties because they have twice as much health as the other regular haunted, so the axe isn't going to kill them. The axe does 150 damage, and the fatties have 270 health, and haunted have, I believe, 135 health. So it's just enough to kill them in one hit, but it's not enough to deal with the fatties. And right here, I'm kind of just waiting for them to all be in a group so I can knock them down, and there it is, and I get them all with 1 match. So again, works out really well. Kiting enemies around for a bit and trying to get them with the shotgun for a match throw is really, really useful. So always keep that in mind. And this is the part I'm talking about where I get really lucky. So I don't know how those dynamite aren't blowing up yet. They're lasting a really long time. But I managed to get some space and knock them over. Whenever I see an enemy with dynamite, I like to shoot them with the handgun just to basically stall for time and let the fuse on the dynamite go down, essentially. If you can't get a good shot at the dynamite or their arm, I would just recommend maybe shooting them in the stomach just to buy yourself some time. You can obviously use something like a harpoon bolt and it'll knock them away from you and it'll crumple them so they'll be on the ground for a while. That's basically a guaranteed way to make them blow themselves up and get it away from you. But I didn't do it here because I wanted to save them. And then here you're going to have to go down this hallway. And there's going to be enemies in cells, and I would advise just ignoring them. You can go back in them for resources after, and the enemies won't even be there. It's just there to kind of scare you, I guess, for this part. Right here again, I just completely fail. I was trying to hit the dynamite as he was lighting it, because you can shoot it before it's lit. But it didn't happen, and here I am wasting all 6 bullets on one enemy, so you can kick that barrel over to him as well and catch him on fire, but I wanted to just shoot the dynamite right away so I didn't have to deal with it. And there's going to be one enemy who comes out of this cell, hit him with the axe, he dies, and even if he lights the dynamite, if you just sprint over to the hole in the wall and crouch under it, you're going to be far enough away so it won't affect you. And you just put in this code here, and this part's over. It's a really great fight. Seriously intense. I just love the enemy compositions and the waves. Because a lot of enemies, when they throw waves of enemies at you, it's very monotonous and repetitive, but it's mixed up really well there, and it doesn't go on too long. In this little tunnel, we get some isolated enemies, and then one smaller fight before we encounter Laura. So I have the axe, so I figure I might as well just blow it on whoever I see, basically. And again, any enemy that's running at you, you can just shoot in the leg. It's what I recommend. The reason I recommend it on a no upgrade playthrough is because when you are going for upgrades, you can upgrade the handgun's critical hit percentage, which applies to the headshots. So if you get it up to 30% crit rate, you have a 30% chance of instantly blowing their heads off, regardless of how much health they have. You don't have that with a no upgrade run, so the instant kill option that's obviously far more likely to happen is the match throw after you've shot them in the leg. So that's typically better if you want to just kill them fast. The problem is that on a no upgrade run, you can't upgrade your match capacity, so you can only hold 5 matches at a time. And if you're going around using a match on one enemy, you're going to run out of matches really quickly. Which is why on a no upgrade run, it's so important to group enemies together. The shotgun is extremely helpful for this. And even on a regular run, I tend to get in the habit of using a shock bolt just to kill 1 or 2 enemies. Like, one enemy's coming at me and I'm kind of in a bad spot, so I'll just use a shock bolt and then throw a match. Well, now I'm throwing away a shock bolt and a match just to kill one enemy. And on a run like this, you can't afford to do stuff like that. Both those things are simply way too valuable. So definitely you have to group enemies together when you're doing a no upgrade run. There's another little cutscene here that I'm going to edit out because no one wants to see that. I'm just kidding. I actually like the story in this game, even though out of all the things this game is criticized for, the story is probably the biggest one, which I don't get. I mean, it's told poorly, and it appears very convoluted, but it's actually cool. It has some cool themes. I like that fire and traps are a central theme of the game's plot, yet they take up such an important role in the game's mechanics too. It's really cool. I don't think a lot of games really do things like that. Another thing I really appreciate about this game is just how much variety there is. I know you could say like it's makes the story disjointed that you're always in a different environment out of nowhere. But at the same time, at the end of the day, it's a video game, and I want variety in my levels and my environments and things like that. So I really like how every chapter is something very different. The next chapter, for example, is totally different than this. So it's cool. It always keeps things unpredictable and really, really fun. So in this chest right here is the first freeze bolt, and I have to just avoid picking it up because obviously I'm not going to use it. So, and I can't get this chest open. You have to open it in a certain way so that it doesn't the dynamite doesn't go off. And for some reason I just couldn't get it right, so that was pretty awesome. I wish there were more games that had environmental hazards in them, like the traps. I know that like the common thing is the explosive barrels that a lot of games have, and it's always talked about how contrived that is, and it is, but I mean it's a start, and games could really build on that, I think. I mean, as much as I love combat focused games because that's what this is, I just wish there was more creativity when it came to the environmental aspect of things. So here, speaking of which, there's a trap you can activate by going over that tripwire, and it sends spikes up, but I didn't time it right, so I had to use the bottle instead for a sneak kill, which is fine because that doesn't use any resources. And here, the part with Laura coming up requires a lot of matches, so I wanted to just run by this enemy instead of burning her. And I also wanted to test something. I was like, I wonder if she follows you all the way over here. And she actually does, so that kind of surprised me. So when you get close to that wall, Laura arrives, and when you come over here and burn this oil patch, she gets scared and she runs away, and then that's when you follow her, that's going to initiate the fight with her. So right now I can hear the enemy banging on the door, and I'm like, oh, well now I'm kind of stuck. Hopefully she doesn't burst through right now. But I decided to just kill her anyway, which I could have done earlier, but whatever. If it's your first time playing, you're probably going to die at this part with Laura at least once, because the game isn't really clear on how you're supposed to handle it. Basically, you have to go around and just burn her. I think it's 6 or 7 times. And there's bodies, and there's torches, and there's levers. Actually, it's more than 6 or 7, I believe. I think it's 8. So you have to burn her a bunch of times. The game isn't really clear on that at first. So there's a little pattern you can do this with. I got this from another video. If I find it, I'll link it down in the description to give it a shout out. If you start at that center one, come down here, make sure you grab this torch, and then over here, this lever opens up those grates, and just pull it immediately. She'll just fall in, because she always wants to go to that body that's over there anyway. So when you go to burn her, you stand in front of the body, but give yourself a little bit of room. This will basically trap her when she comes out of the body. If you stand right over it, she can go over you or go in the other direction, and then she might be too far away from the body. But if you just stand just a little bit in front of it, she's going to basically be stuck right on top of it, so you don't have to worry about her getting away. So there was a body, supposed to be a body underneath that door that was halfway open, but it wasn't there for whatever reason. I think it fell in when I pulled the lever, so I had to improvise a little bit. Now I have to run back and grab this torch, which this torch will finish her off. So there's enough supplies in here to do this fight. And I don't know for sure, but I think that if you don't have enough supplies, I believe the fight ends on a timer if you can't do enough damage to her. So that ends that fight. Again, it seems really hard, but when you know the pattern and the route to go, it's really easy. It's weird, as much as I've played this game, there are still things I'm unsure about. Like, I don't actually know if this fight will end on a timer. I'm sure someone will correct me, or if that's wrong or something, which it probably is, but whatever. So I'm grabbing this green gel because after I do this run, I plan to just start a new file and upgrade everything. So that should be fun. And here I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. You run down a hallway and then there's a cutscene that's unskippable, so I just chopped it out. There's a couple of these fights in the game where you're going to be in this room where these enemies roll out of these tubs. And the goal of these fights is to knock them down, and then you have to unplug the cord from the back of their head. So you can knock them down either with shock bolt, shotgun, leg shot, something like that. But don't go for things like handgun headshot, because that's not really the effective thing to do here. Just any knockdown tool is going to do the trick. And that about wraps this chapter up. If you like the video and want to see more like it, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.